What if I told you that the Straw Hat was the symbol of destiny? More specifically, those who wear the Straw Hat proudly have the ability to change destiny. I believe there is proof that Rayleigh had told us the importance of the Straw Hat, the giant Straw Hat in Mariejois, Luffy's hat being passed down like inherited will. It all makes way too much sense if you think about it. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video because this is an insane One Piece theory. Listen guys, this is going to be a long one. We are diving deep into One Piece speculation and theory crafting, so make sure to subscribe, go grab a snack, relax, do what you have to do, and without further ado, let's jump into the video. Fate and destiny are such controversial topics within the One Piece community. One argument that I constantly see is Luffy being destined to be the Pirate King is lame. It's a chosen one trope and nullifies the ambition and hard work put into the Straw Hats to achieve their dreams. On the other hand, many will say that destiny was always a part of One Piece whether you like it or not, since the very beginning, even the first chapter, and it's only now becoming more important to the story, just like many other things of One Piece. For example, now we have the Checkered Fate added to the Will of D clan, and arguably the most important foreshadowing to Luffy being destined was in chapter 96 when we see Luffy get his first bounty, and back in his hometown there is this reaction where the mayor says, is it his dream or his destiny, when referring to Luffy. Because of Wano and Oden's flashback, we now know even more about these prophesized figures like Joy Boy, Poseidon. Oden was able to understand the world and believe the prophecy that a future generation of young pirates would defeat Kaido. But when we talk about Poseidon, she is destined to control the Sea Kings. Luffy has also claimed multiple times throughout the series that he is lucky. He's so self-aware of this that he even laughs when he's about to be executed in Logtown. He survives, which has always been a question of fate or dragon saving him, as Luffy chalks it up to him being lucky once again. He's acknowledging that he is destined or lucky. Luffy must understand to achieve what he is after, he will need a little bit of luck or fate on his side. And I don't want to say this for a sure fact, it may be symbolism instead of literal, because in the manga we see the sword that's about to kill Luffy, and in this panel we see lightning and it's sparking up right between the sword and the Straw Hat. So I'm believe that the Straw Hat symbolizes destiny or fate. Does the Straw Hat have a mysterious supernatural ability that can change fate for the wearer? Well, I'm not too confident in the supernatural aspect, although I do think it could be possible since Luffy inheriting the will of the previous owners, and in Wano we have some hints of supernatural activity with the swords representing inherited will, their cursed blades. Now with Zoro we can see a possible idea of Oden's will being contained in Enma since it reacted to Hiyori playing her song, and we now know that the swords have wills when they choose the user, and with each one having a personality. But anyways guys, let's get back to Lawtown, this event where Luffy is about to be beheaded in the same place where Roger, the former Pirate King and Straw Hat wearer, was born and killed. Smoker even gets goosebumps from this event because Luffy is smiling and laughing and he is about to die, reminding him of how Roger died in the same place. I also find it interesting how Smoker says that the last time he saw Dragon was at Lawtown during Roger's execution, so we have many parallels going on right here. As I said previously, the sparks light up when Luffy is about to die, and we see the Straw Hat right next to the sword, then a huge strike of lightning is shown. The little spark started at the sword, and you might say that's how lightning works, it goes from the ground up, but here it starts from the sword right as Luffy is about to die or by the Straw Hat. So I do think this could be symbolic, but what's more important is on the very next page, the first thing that we see is the Straw Hat once again. Oda focusing in on this hat to no end in this chapter as it slowly drifts down and plops onto the ground right where Luffy landed. Luffy picks up the hat, claims it was all luck, and Sanji asks Zoro if he believes in a higher power. This could be another reference and a hint, some kind of fate or supernatural moment. So this is why I say at the very least, the Straw Hat symbolizes fate and destiny, and more specifically, the changing of fate, as Luffy was meant to die, but fate had a different plan for him. He was just simply lucky according to him. And I know many people believe that Dragon saved Luffy, but this has never been confirmed. I do think that Dragon theory has some credibility to it, but I do believe mine does as well. So now we have a gust of wind. It's way more likely that this is just Dragon and not the lightning, but you never know, right? Smoker even says, is this just a coincidence? It seems how some kind of force is willing this man's survival. So in my opinion, it would be amazing now if we have the combination of supernatural fate with a lightning mixed in with a Will of D member who was attempting to change fate, which is Dragon. So now these two elements combined, which allows Luffy to escape and begin his journey in the Grand Line. Dragon is also an important character to Lawtown since he was the second to last person shown during Roger's execution besides Ace's mom. He was even shown after Shanks. And to go on this idea about Dragon and Roger being connected, on chapter 100, one of the most important quotes in all of One Piece is shown. A quote from Gol D Roger with the introduction of Monkey D. Dragon. These things cannot be stopped. Inherited will, people's dreams, the ebb and flow of the ages. As long as people seek the answer to freedom, these will never cease to be. First, Dragon is changing people's fate by freeing them from the tyrannical governments, the oppression in the world. Luffy is a character who is obsessed with freedom. He is a pirate, the main character, the main protagonist in a pirate adventure, and he even tells Rayleigh the pirate king who he will become is the freest man on the sea. So essentially Luffy wants to be the freest man, the freest of the free. He also saves many kingdoms, gives freedom to characters like Nico Robin, Nami, who can now live out their dreams. Is it possible that Dragon inherited Gol D Roger's will? It's likely that Shanks did, but with this inherited will line being shown from Gol D Roger as we first see Dragon's face, I find it very interesting. Now let's move on to chapter 95. The doctor on Roger's ship, Crocus, says, "Could this be the ones you were waiting for? The captain has a very mysterious aura about him. What do you think, Roger?" This isn't the only time we hear about the man that Roger was waiting for. When Whitebeard dies, he tells Blackbeard, "Teach, you are not the man that Roger was waiting for." And he says, just as there are people who carried on Roger's will, there will be someone who carries on Ace's will. I believe Luffy is the man that will carry on both. The Strawhat, in a way, is a representation of the wills being passed down, and Luffy doesn't even know it. Shanks told Whitebeard that he bet it on the next generation, which is Luffy, and Shanks most likely inherited Gol D Roger's will. And then he gave him his hat, which was Roger's in the past. Luffy carries on Ace's will in many ways. One example being his ambition to take down Kaido, since Ace claimed he would. Luffy in this way will be fulfilling Ace's will and ambition. So this man carrying on the weight of all the past generations is Luffy. If you consider that Luffy can also hear the voice of all things, which is most likely connected to the Void Century, so Luffy might be able to hear these voices that are coming from the past generations. Luffy is destined for this whether you like it or not. In this statement about someone inheriting Ace's will and someone challenging the world while holding all the weight of the previous generations, Whitebeard also says you may eradicate their bloodline, but the flame never dies. With Whitebeard spinning some straight up heat right there, that is a Fire Fist Ace bar, and is it a coincidence that Luffy can now use Fire Fist Ace attacks with Red Rock inspired by Ace? Marco even says how Luffy will now carry out Ace's will immediately after he dies. Finally, Whitebeard tells Sengoku that the government are living in fear of the day that the flame engulfs the entire world in war. Speaking of Ace's metaphorical flame, can I just say that the writing in this is insane. Whitebeard says that the world will be turned upside down when that person finds the One Piece. So once again, Luffy is destined to find the One Piece. He will be the man bearing every previous generation's will. The will of D, the will of Joy Boy, the will of Roger and Shanks, and Ace's burning will that lives on forever. Roger said he would turn the world upside down when he first met Rayleigh, and now we have Whitebeard saying that the man who finds the One Piece will turn the world upside down. It's a fair assumption to make that Luffy will find the One Piece. This war seems like another point of destiny. Maybe it's some kind of prophecy. The way Whitebeard speaks of it, it's almost as if he knows it's near. Why else would the government be so afraid of it? The Roger pirates found the One Piece, but they were not the ones who were meant to find it. Could the Will of D members be the clan that is said to have a will so powerful that they can change destiny itself? We have Rose, who was Ace's mom. She was able to do the impossible. Ace should have died. Yet she found a will. She willed herself to make sure that he was born, and then Garp became the grandfather or godfather-like figure of Ace, and Rose, who had a child with the former Straw Hat owner, the former Pirate King, was someone who had a will so powerful that she could alter the future and save Ace by allowing him to be born in the first place. Luffy is the character who seeks freedom. As long as people seek the answer to freedom, these things cannot be stopped. Fits the quote perfectly. Before we move on to my next point about fate and destiny, I have one question for everyone listening and watching. When Ace dies, he says, "Luffy, listen closely and tell everyone what I'm about to tell you," and then he proceeds to whisper something in Luffy's ear. I don't think it's ever been revealed what Ace told Luffy, but if you do know, let me know, because from Luffy's reaction to his eyes going wide, and he seems like it must be something important from how Ace whispers it, and he's also probably just losing his mind because his brother is dying in his arms. You know, maybe that's why his eyes are going crazy, but it seems like what he said was important. So let me know in the comment section if you do know what he said. Now, before we get into the next big discussion of the importance of destiny in One Piece, I would really appreciate it if you guys could just hit the like button and hit subscribe. Now back to the video. Luffy vs Katakuri is arguably the most important fight for Luffy, aside from his never-ending battle with Kaido of course. This is a battle that introduces one of the most interesting concepts in all of One Piece, the ability to see into the future, advanced observation haki techniques. Is it a coincidence that Luffy learns and copies this ability from Katakuri, who Oda draws many parallels between the two during the fight? In a series where we now time travel, multiple prophecies, this ability is absolutely fitting for a character like Luffy who is so tied to fate. The most important aspect of this fight and a big point of it is the idea that Luffy is now able to change the future. In other words, this fight directly proves that Luffy is able to change destiny or fate itself. Straw Hat Luffy, who can now see into the future, and not to mention, he has been proven to change it. And although both of these instances were small in scale, for example, being able to change something or see something a few seconds ahead, the implications in this are much grander than you may realize. There are many theories of Jayabaya or Joyo Boyo being the inspiration for Joy Boy. I think that's a great theory. I don't want to claim this idea. I know many people have spoke on it before, so I'll keep this brief. If you consider that he was a historical figure known for his prophecies, he was also known for being able to see into the past or far into the future. And now in One Piece, there is this idea that Sengoku brings up when referring to Odin, who predicted the future of Wano and knew the Void Century history. Sengoku says, you can't predict the future if you don't know your history. And I will bring this up in the future, so remember this quote.
恐るべきは奴が動けばおのずと起こる奇跡。その最たるものが正義の門。
If we look at this idea of Joy Boy being inspired by Jayabaya, Joy Boy may have been a man who knew all the history of the past and the history of the future. That may have been why there are so many prophecies created by Joy Boy. Or maybe Joy Boy simply had a devil fruit that allowed him to see into the future. But my favorite interpretation of this would be, what if Joy Boy was so powerful, a godlike figure, and Haki so perfected that he could literally see 800 years into the future with observation Haki? If Luffy can only look a few seconds ahead, how do we know what the limit is? Can you extend the limit through training? During his fight with Katakuri, Luffy remembered his training days with Rayleigh. The Dark King essentially told him to learn these new Haki abilities, you need to have a life or death situation or be pushed to the absolute limit. This theme of fate is blown up, and it even ends with one of the most iconic lines where Katakuri tells Luffy, you're looking too far into the future, Straw Hat, referring to Luffy being a pirate king. It's also emphasizing the growing importance of Luffy being a chosen one, destined to become the pirate king. And while many would say that that is a problem, in One Piece, Oda has executed this perfectly in my opinion, with the evidence that Luffy is the one character who can change fate in small ways. Maybe this ability will grow more in the future, and maybe other D members can do it as well, who knows. But as of right now, Luffy is confirmed to be able to do this. Now I want to quickly speak about how Blackbeard may play into this. After all, I'm a huge Blackbeard fan. When Whitebeard says, teach, you are not the one Roger was waiting for. I think this is important because if Blackbeard is supposed to share somewhat of a checkered fate with Luffy, we have to understand the similarities and the differences. When it comes to fate, Luffy is a character who has accepted his destiny wholeheartedly. Luffy once accepted his death, but now he understands that he has to perform and change destiny to protect his friends. There's also destiny surrounding the Blackbeard pirates, but Blackbeard is also obsessed with creating his own destiny. Blackbeard doesn't care about being Joy Boy or the chosen one or any of this, and that is because of his ambition. He understands that he has the power to do anything. Blackbeard even claims that the Yami Yami no Mi chose him. It was all a twist of fate, but in reality, he killed his own crew member, betraying the Whitebeard pirates by breaking their one and only rule. As you know, Blackbeard doesn't play by the rules. I believe Blackbeard's goal of becoming Pirate King is motivated by freedom as well. Luffy is an example of what freedom can mean by freeing those around him and adventuring across the world, defeating top dogs of the sea so they cannot stand in his way of freedom. But if Blackbeard was fully free, it would be pure anarchy, another glimpse into freedom, but the darkness that comes with true freedom would also be shown to the world. Other times that fate was brought up was when his crew was saying how Ace and Blackbeard's duel was a duel of fates, and then Impelled Down, Shiryu has been saying that he's waiting for someone like Blackbeard, someone destined for greatness. His implied fate had brought the two together, that Shiryu just so happened to be there to heal him from the poison. So this concept runs deep within the crew. He even allows those who survived from Impelled Down to join his crew as commanders. So in a way, they are all fated ones who are destined to survive. So we have two extremely lucky characters destined for greatness with Luffy and Blackbeard. They both understand that they can twist fate to their advantage in small ways, and they are both aware and conscious of their good fortune. With Luffy, you could say it's just because he's the the main character, and that's true, right? But there are plenty of times where characters are interested in testing Luffy's fate, like when Mihawk at Marineford and Kaido and Wano. And with Blackbeard and Luffy both having dreams of becoming the Pirate King, I believe the Straw Hat is a symbol that shows Luffy will truly end up being the Pirate King. Luffy, who leaves a lot more up to fate, while Blackbeard seems to plan things out a lot more carefully, and I think this will be the final deciding factor because Luffy will edge out slightly over Blackbeard since he understands fate is on his side a lot more than Blackbeard does. For example, Blackbeard waited and hid in the shadows of Whitebeard, as Shanks explains. He then plans out the entire Warlord and Impel Down situation, while Luffy, he is constantly running at full speed without a question or without a doubt in his mind that he is going to make the right decision. In Enos Lobby, he flies in alone without his crew. He just goes in there. Wano, he disregards the plans that Law goes through to keep a low profile. Luffy in many ways understands that he is the main character. I believe that he is self-aware of him being the chosen one. The symbol of the Straw Hat is something that he created as his identity, and even though Shanks and Roger both had that hat, when you hear the Straw Hats, you think of Luffy and his crew. He is Straw Hat Luffy.
久しぶりだな、麦わら。
It has become a part of his identity. And who is Luffy? Well, he is the man destined to become the Pirate King, the Straw Hat, chosen by destiny to carry on the wheels of the previous generations. Luffy frees random villages like Nami's hometown, and Teach destroyed a random village in his battle with Ace. The similarities are just important as the differences between the two. Now we know the importance of themes of light and dark, but this leads many people to believe that the Straw Hat represents the sun, and I actually agree with this somewhat, but more specifically, this makes Luffy the destined sun. Straw Hats were created initially to simply block out the sun, so my idea is that Luffy giving the Straw Hat back to Shanks represents and will be symbolic of Luffy accepting his fate as the new sun god, since now the sun would be shining on him. And finally embracing the sun, now this is a battle, a duality between darkness and light. Overall though, I do love this idea that Luffy could represent the sun, especially with the ship being the sunny and him having the new fire abilities. But does this in a way contradict my theory that the Straw Hat represents fate, destiny, and the power to change it? And I would say no. If this world that the government is attempting to seize full power of is a dark era, you will see that Luffy's destiny is to do what no one else can do and bring a new era. A romance dawn. Luffy is destined to change fate, and that is why the Will of D is so important. The Celestial Dragons are responsible for how the world is today. And did you ever notice that Doflamingo is a superstitious man, and he fears the Will of D clan and even wears the sunglasses? He too was attempting to block out the sun, and Luffy is carrying this will of the past generations on his shoulders. As Whitebeard said, one man who finds the One Piece will do. That is why the Celestial Dragons are truly so afraid. Your average Marine is not afraid of someone finding the One Piece. It's the highest elites, the people at the top who are aware of the deed, like Sengoku and the Celestial Dragons, the Will of D, also known as the true enemies of the gods. I just find it absolutely hilarious that these D clan members, they're like boogeyman to Celestial Dragons. I mean, you have a grown ass man, Doflamingo, still afraid of them, which could explain why he wears his glasses all the time. I just think it's funny, man. Like, he's absolutely terrified of the horror stories of the D clan.
神の血を引く俺の首を取りに来たってのか
And we see his face when Law announces he was a Will of D member. I mean, he was just shooken up. And now I told you about Sengoku's quote earlier in the video where he mentions you must know the past to predict the future when he refers to Odin, a man who can predict the future specifically because of what he learned at Raftel. And I also find it just ironic that the fleet admiral is telling Law to live free. He straight up lied to Law about his knowledge of the D clan. In his head, he thinks the D clan always follows a checkered fate. And later down the line, Law says he finally wants to know what this checkered fate means. The checkered fate will fit nicely with this theory if it somehow symbolizes the D clan members being pieces on a checkerboard with their destiny being laid out and fate guiding them. But I highly doubt this is the case. So what does this checkered fate really mean? Well, I'll tell you what I think it means, and I do think I have a great answer. Checkered is at the most simple terms, black and white square boards, and it's not as simple as that, right? They actually represent the opposite, ironically. What a checkered fate actually means is a fate that isn't so black and white. And now before you click off this video, I have to say this is just my opinion. I am not accusing Oda of being a Freemason, in a cult, or anything like that. But the checkered paths is one of the biggest symbols in Freemasonry. I'm not here to educate you on secret societies and all that, but we are here for One Piece, so go look into it after this video if you care. If not, okay, well, let me explain a bit more about this checkered fate. When people say it's not so black and white, they are simply saying it's not simply good and evil. There's nuances in the situation and context that needs to be addressed. But what happens when good is evil and evil is good? One and the same, or opposites attracting or becoming one and the same, give two completely opposite meanings that are tied together. Look at the balance of yin and yang, black and white. The little white circles the black teardrop and vice versa. You see, a fate is being brought up again with this D clan, but this time a checkered fate, the enemies of the gods. But this time around, its checkered meaning is not so black and white. It's both black and white as a checkerboard. Well, you might be thinking, how could it be both? How could the D clan's fate be both good and evil? Well, I'll tell you multiple ways it fits this narrative. Let's start out with Doflamingo's speech in Marineford. Pirates are evil, Marines are righteous. These labels have been passed around heavens know how many times. Kids who have never seen peace and kids that have never seen war have different values. Those who stand up at the top determine what's right and wrong as they see it. This place is a neutral ground. Justice will prevail, you say? Of course it will. Those who win the war become justice. So with the Celestial Dragons and the Marines, we have people who are known for slavery, other heinous acts as well, yet they are justified because they are the ruling class. They are governing the world. They even create laws where you cannot research history, the greatest sin. If these are the gods, then it's understandable that the D clan are the devil. So here you have a clash of good versus evil. From the Celestial Dragon's perspective, the D clan is truly evil. As you know, Doflamingo, he fears the D. And from our perspective of Celestial Dragons, they are evil. Once again though, it's not so black and white because it's a checkered fate. Of course, there are some Celestial Dragons who are not evil. And of course, there are some Will of D members who are not evil as well. But the Celestial Dragons are currently at the top and they have decided that the D clan is evil. Researching the Void Century is humanity's greatest sin, pirates are evil, and anyone who stands their way is going against God. Interesting though, because in One Piece, it is a story of overturning power. This is the romance dawn that Luffy will set into motion once the Celestial Dragons are defeated. If you think about the Marines, they are like pirates in so many ways. The real difference is who they work under. You even have the Yonko who have massive military power that can rival the Marines, even though they are attempting global domination. Whitebeard knew about the Will of D from Roger, yet he didn't care about the One Piece. He didn't want to find it. He wanted Ace, a Will of D member, to find it. It's because Whitebeard knows when Ace or Luffy, whoever finds it, whoever is destined to find the One Piece, it will turn the world on his head, just like Roger said, right? This is another example of foreshadowing that Luffy will be the one who brings the romance down to the world. Since I explained earlier, Luffy has inherited Roger's will.
Roger. 初めて会った時、俺に何て言ったか覚えてるか？
世界をひっくり返すだったが、
この出会いは運命だ。殿。
あの約束果たされたか。
But what happens when you actually do turn the world upside down like Roger wants? This once again is a transfer of power, changing everything that we know is right in the world, flipping it on its head. If the world sees everything one way, Roger planned to change the way of the world. I believe this was his biggest dream, so Luffy is the one who will carry it out. I'm absolutely sure of it. It's one thing to leave an impact like Roger did, but Luffy will be the one who defeats the Celestial Dragons, the highest people in the world, that will flip the world upside down, essentially flipping everything in the world. The good will become the evil will become the good, just like Doflamingo said, the checkered fate, leading into Romance Dawn. The rich will become the poor could become the rich. This is why the Celestial Dragons fear this so much. Well, people in the world who control information will become ignorant and lose this information, and vice versa. And just like Doflamingo said, those in power will be justice. Eventually down the line, the people at the top will manipulate history to their own liking or repeat history. And just like Sengoku said, you have to know your history to predict the future. Everything will be the opposite. Eventually these pirates will form their own government and control the world, and eventually there will be corruption. This idea that history will repeat itself is a very present theme in One Piece. When Rayleigh said, maybe you'll come to a different conclusion than us, he may have meant instead of flipping the world upside down and having this cycle continue, the Straw Hats may bring a new era never seen before. is equilibrium instead, a perfect balance of harmony, an end to the checkered fate and the decline, an end to the celestial dragons altogether, the true romance dawn. Rayleigh and Roger may have found the One Piece and realized the prophesized Joy Boy and Poseidon will flip the world upside down. Since that was Roger's dream, it makes perfect sense. He said he wishes he could see Joy Boy's era because this is the most likely time when Joy Boy and the decline ruled. It's the dream Roger envisioned since day one. Joy Boy's era is what it may have looked like if Roger truly did flip the world upside down, because Roger's dream wasn't to become the Pirate King as far as we know. It was to flip the world upside down. He even introduced himself with this, similar to how Luffy says, "I'm the man who will become the Pirate King." Rayleigh eventually bought into Roger's dream, similar to how Zoro has now dedicated his life to making sure that Luffy sees his dream out. So once again, we must ask, if Roger wanted to flip the world upside down, would this be flipping it back to the way it was before the Void Century? And that is why Roger said, "I wish I could have seen your era, Joy Boy," because that is the era that he always envisioned for the future. And in the process, the devils of the world will become the heroes and the gods. And we already seen this. We have Luffy, Zoro, and Usopp, who all have god or devil references. Depending on who you ask, you will get a different answer. Another possibility is that Luffy will be the one to bring the romance dawn, and this will bring true neutrality and perfect harmony, an equilibrium of sorts. And speaking of equilibrium, have you ever heard of something called an alchemical marriage? I personally believe that Oda has used this term alchemical marriage as the inspiration for the romance dawn. And when you learn what this alchemical marriage is, your jaw will drop. So alchemical marriage is essentially a phenomenon that comes from alchemy, and this is like magic or dark magic, whatever you want to call it. If you've ever heard of twin flames, it comes from this as well. So the end result and the whole point of an alchemical marriage is to become a god or an enlightened one, or sometimes people would seek this for immortality. And what I've heard is that there are some steps into becoming a god, like removing things that stand in the way of your happiness, letting go of control, allowing fate to guide you, resurrection of the soul, and most importantly, since I brought up this alchemic marriage, one crucial step in doing this is the marriage and unification of the sun and the moon. Now listen guys, I do not mess with this alchemy stuff. I don't like it, I'm not into this. Their beliefs are really twisted and really different. But you heard me right guys, the marriage and unification of the sun and the moon. So what is this? Well, apparently it's one of the most famous symbols in all of alchemy. Now this is not only fitting of the checkered theme with the sun and the moon being opposites, but together created a god or enlightened being. We have the sun and the moon, which could also represent in many ways masculine and feminine, night and day, dark and light, two sides of the same coin, or the checkered fate. So think about the term romance dawn, and now do you see why I believe this has something to do with alchemical marriage? Romance could be present as marriage, the dawn, and the sun and the moon, or the night and day. Now if we want to go even further, I think you can make an argument that E will be a woman, and this could fit perfectly into this checkered fate theme of Joy Boy, a youthful boy who brings joy and happiness, and then E may be an immortal woman who brings darkness. And now I have an entire other video planned on this idea, but I just thought it could fit nicely here, especially since many people seem to believe that Eam is an immortal woman. So I know it's been a little bit of a tangent here, but let's get back on track with the Checkered Fates. Blackbeard's battle with Ace was considered to be a duel of fates like I mentioned earlier. Two Will D members battling, light and dark, black and white, the Checkered Fate. Luffy versus Blackbeard will be the rematch of the Checkered Fate that the D clan followed. Blackbeard may be attempting to change fate by becoming the Pirate King since it's actually Luffy's destiny. So again, this idea that fate is at play, especially with the D clan. Many fans also seem to believe that the will of D stands for devil, and I think that makes a lot of sense. If they're the natural enemies of the gods and then they follow a checkered path, the devil really does fit this narrative. I've always personally believed that it actually means destiny, but there are a lot of things that the will of D can mean. Luffy's crew is full of devil related characters like Nico Robin, who has a new devil form and was called a devil of a heart since the beginning. Zoro is a self-proclaimed god of hell and referred to as a demon since the beginning of the story as well, as Luffy was a sun god or a fire god, God Usopp, and then we have Jinbei with a sun god connections as well. So a group of gods and devils. I mean, Zoro even defeated a god when he defeated a Lunarian. When Luffy defeats Kaido, that's defeating a god, as I've explained multiple times. There's also Doflamingo and Neru and punching Charlos as well. There are many times Luffy goes against these characters who are deemed gods. So I think this could play into the Checkered Fate for sure, but like I said, D could also mean plenty of other things: the will of destiny, the will of the devil, the will of dawn, the will of the dead, the will of dreams, and plenty other D related words. So now let's get into the moment you've all been waiting for. Let me show you why I even decided to make this video in the first place. We have to talk about Rayleigh and his importance to Roger and Luffy. First off, Rayleigh smiles when Luffy says he wants to be the freest man on the sea. That's what the Pirate King is. And remember, Luffy says that he will come back to defeat Big Mom. He has to, because he has to defeat everyone that is standing in his way to become the Pirate King. They also hint at Luffy defeating everyone in the world. What happens when all the Yonko and Admirals are defeated? Now we have to defeat the Celestial Dragon. Doflamingo also foreshadows people switching sides, especially now that there's a great battle for power. Aokiji has allegedly joined Blackbeard. Law has joined Luffy. Kaido has teamed up with Big Mom. And the Great War that Whitebeard spoke of is close to manifesting. It's inevitable because it's a part of destiny. If Sengoku thinks that Luffy is so dangerous because he makes miracles happen, he's a miracle man. So if the Marines and the world government have done everything in their power to make sure that when this war comes, they will remain at the top, their biggest fear is someone like Luffy who can make miracles happen against all odds. And having fate on his side, that makes him even more dangerous. And there are those who are preparing for the war like Dragon, Blackbeard, Shanks, the Marines, and Doflamingo and Kaido who are preparing for a world war. But what is Rayleigh up to? The Dark King Rayleigh. Will he join his side or watch everything play out? I believe ever since he saw the One Piece with Roger, he has known what the future holds. He is expecting certain events to take place. In chapter 603, which might be the most important chapter to this entire video, we see a mini flashback of Roger. This is the first time that we ever found out that Roger had the straw hat. And in the anime, you have that moment, that classic moment in the opening where Roger gives it to Shanks and then Shanks gives it to Luffy. We reveal that Roger has the straw hat, but we also have Roger bringing up fate. So now you can see when it clicked in my head when I reread this. This is a flashback to when Rayleigh and Roger first met, and Roger specifically says this is a meeting of fate. Let's turn the world upside down. So now I'm thinking, okay, is it really a coincidence in the exact same panel that Roger having the straw is revealed, we see him bringing up fate and what could possibly be the Checkered Fate by flipping the world upside down. I'm thinking, okay, Luffy's going to carry out this exact will. It gets even better because Rayleigh is remembering as Luffy leaves to Fishman Island. And now pay even closer attention to this. Rayleigh says maybe there's no such thing as coincidence in this world. Maybe everything that happens is inevitable. Destiny just goes on his plotted way. And yet Luffy has grown into a man even more worthy of the hat. It may not be a bad thing to live a little longer. Dark King Rayleigh is telling us the man who went to Raftail knows the truth. The man who traveled with Roger says there is no coincidence in this world. Maybe everything that happens is inevitable. He is talking about destiny while bringing up the straw hat, while thinking of Roger, while thinking about the fate. And just like Roger brought up fate when his straw hat was revealed, now Rayleigh at this moment is thinking about destiny and fate and how you can't change what will happen. And then after this, it's even more important and more mind-blowing to me that Oda added this in, because from there Rayleigh is saying although destiny is solidified, he believes everything is set in stone, no coincidences. Fate is inevitable. Despite all of that, Luffy has grown into a man even more worthy of that hat. Even more worthy of the hat than Gol D Roger. So instead, this is important for 3 reasons. First of all, Luffy is more worthy of the hat than Roger, and Rayleigh is the only one who could really determine that. He spent 2 years with Luffy, and he was the right-hand man to Gol D Roger. And not to mention, Rayleigh is implying that the straw hat represents the ability to change out what is carved out as destiny. And keep in mind that Rayleigh knows about the prophecies that will happen as well. Rayleigh essentially knows the future, and the reason why he says it might not be a bad thing to live a little longer is because he believes Luffy will change the future and change destiny. In other words, what's the point of living if you already know how it ends? If it's tragic or an ending that he does not want to happen, he might not want to be around for when it does happen, as it's a disappointment to him. And what does he want? At the end of the day, the Roger Pirates wanted to flip the world upside down, right? Luffy, his very existence gives him hope that this destined outcome will be changed. Imagine if Luffy finds out about what the future holds when he gets to Raftail. How would he respond? Just think about what Luffy would do. I can't accept this without trying to change it. Luffy will do everything in his power to change future for the better. He already knows he can do it from this fight with Katakuri, so he will have an unwavering will and ambition to do so. When someone tells Luffy he can't do something, he doesn't care. He still tries and does everything he can in his power to attempt it. Spending 2 years with Luffy, training him in Conqueror's Haki, training him in Observation Haki, Luffy reminds Rayleigh of Roger. This has been clear. Many people have seen Luffy and thought of Gol D Roger, Kureha, Crocus, plenty of others as well. And then we have the Straw Hat and this concept of fate that surrounds Luffy and Roger. Luffy is an insane individual, but Roger is arguably even more insane than Luffy. Imagine walking up to someone and the first thing you say is, "This has to be destiny that we met. Join me as we turn the world upside down together." What kind of introduction introduction is that? I mean, how do you go up to someone and talk to them like that? And at the same time, he has this psycho Will of D smile that he's so famous for. So I truly believe that hat represents the inherited will being passed down, the ambition to turn the world upside down. It represents destiny and those few individuals who can change destiny. This is what the Will of D have all been leading for, from Rose changing a predetermined destiny, to Blackbeard changing a predetermined destiny, to Luffy multiple times. And the amazing thing about this is that it wouldn't be a coincidence, it would be destiny speaking to the world that Luffy is the one who will change the world. Roger wasn't known for the Straw Hat, Luffy is. So you may be thinking, what about Eam, the giant straw hat in the freezer, and Mariejois? Could this hat be the relic, the sacred treasure? And it's like I always said, in One Piece, if there's something frozen, if there's a freezer, you know, if there's Ringo where you have these bodies underground and being frozen and preserved, you know, in Mariejois, there has to be a body. So could Joy Boy or Roger's corpse be trapped inside Mariejois? After all, this freezer was very similar to Gecko Morai's, who had an ancient giant ores in it. He may fear the Straw Hat because of its potential or symbolic importance that the user of the Straw Hat will be able to change the future. So what I'm assuming here is that the future is not very exciting and hopeful for the Will of D members. If Luffy is now giving hope to Rayleigh that he could change it and carry out Roger's will, this might imply that the government have done everything in their power to be chosen as the destined ones to continue with their corruption. Celestial dragons at the top. But in reality, the true chosen ones of destiny are the Will of D members for this era. The first step to change in the future is to know what's in store. So will Luffy flip the world completely upside down, or will he bring this perfect harmony? You let me know in the comments. And finally, I want to discuss Monkey D. Garp. I believe Garp may have attempted to change Luffy's destiny. He was upset that Luffy looked up to Shanks of all people. I think Garp wanted to change his dream and destiny to become a Marine. Same thing with Ace. Obviously, he failed because Luffy never listened to him. So I wonder if Garp believes in this predetermined future. You know, we have Garp, Luffy, and Dragon who do not fuck with the Celestial Dragons. And Luffy has been clearly foreshadowed to become the Pirate King hundreds of times. Shanks believed in Luffy. He even said he will be a great pirate one day, and coming from Shanks, that is quite a statement. He even entrusted Luffy to come and find him. The Red Hair Pirates are a powerful crew. That is some serious expectations for Shanks to have for Luffy. It could be possible that Roger told Garp about the Will of D and all the secrets of the world when he was going to be executed, and this changes perspective on the worldview. Sengoku was pretty much successful in changing Corazon from pirate to government agent. Garp may have thought he could do the same thing as well with his grandchildren. At the end of the day though, Garp is a very interesting character, a Will of D member in the Marines. He threatened to kill Akainu, but you know what Dragon said? The enemy is not the government, it's the Celestial Dragon. So Garp might have that same mentality as well. And when he did threaten to kill Akainu, it was understandable. He just got done killing Ace. And it also seems like he is keeping in touch with Dragon as well, the world's biggest criminal, since he tells Luffy that Dragon saw him in Logtown. And what is the world's biggest crime? Discovering the poneglyphs, discovering the ancient weapons, discovering the truth of the Void Century. I believe the Dragon did find out what happened. And if I'm right about Dragon being another one who was inheriting Roger's will, then this could be why the government is so afraid of Dragon and Luffy. Garp's connection to Aokiji, Sengoku, and Kobe, these should not be overlooked. Anyways guys, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. What do you think about the Straw Hat? What does it represent? The sun? Does it represent destiny? I believe that it represents fate and the ability to change it. Will Luffy turn the world upside down and complete Roger's will? Do you disagree with me on this checkered fate theory? Do you agree with me on the romance dawn theory? Once again, what did Ace tell Luffy when he whispered in his ear as his final words? There is a lot in this video to discuss, so let me know in the comments. I am open-minded. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments about anything. It took so much time to edit this video, record it, script it, so I would really appreciate leaving a like and a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new, because I have plenty of theories on my channel, plenty of great content planned for the future. Anyways guys, don't forget to have a great day, stay safe, and see you next time.